Today is joining me Nancy Prevost Maurice. Nancy, driven by a courageous spirit, looks for challenging the established norms to foster a better world by advocating compassion, collaboration, and embracing a zero waste lifestyle. As a changemaker in 2019, while seeking eco friendly options for coffee on the go, she co founded the Nulla Project. The venture aims to sustain the to go culture on Vancouver Island in an environmentally conscious manner, eliminating the waste generated by disposable items. Nancy, thank you so much to be here. We're going to start with the first question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, the World Commission of Environment and Development, they define sustainability this way, and I'm quoting, as a development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet their own needs. This is the World Commission Environment and Development Sustainability concept. But I want to ask to you, from your own perspective, Nancy, what does sustainability mean to you in your work and in your life?
I love that. Thank you, Joseph. Yeah, I think for me, sustainability, it's really about thinking outside the box a little bit and going beyond, I think, as we say, recycling, right? I think we did great steps, if I remember my childhood with my parents. Like we did getting a blue bin and doing a recycling. But like as I grew up, I realized, oh, wow, we need to do so much more. So that's why I think for me, it's about like reducing at the source and then reusing and repurposing. Like I often, and I love the quote you said too, because I often refer almost to my grandparents when I'm thinking about my consumption, right? Like they were growing their own food, their garden, they were exchanging stuff with the neighbors, they were fixing clothes. Like I didn't see a lot of waste at both my grandparents' houses, and then I can see the switch to like my parents and now myself, and I'm like, no, I don't want to continue on that trend of over consuming. I really want to do better. And so yeah, I think for me, sustainability, when we talk about regeneration as well, right, it's like how can my action impact the planet now but impacts the next generation, as you mentioned. And I'm sure that yourself and people maybe listening to the podcast have heard of like that seven generation quote to or like ways of thinking and being from indigenous communities. And for me, when I learned that at school in my master years ago, it just changed my life. I was like, wow, everything I do, I need to think like seven generation down the road. And so that just opened my mind and my eyes. And I'm like, oh, wow, there's so much I need to change to get there.
That's a really interesting perspective and way of decision making, the seven generations, because that way you are going to decide better today. And that leads me to the next question that I want to ask to you, Nancy. How do you integrate sustainability in a daily basis?
That's the big question, right? We all want to do better, but then we're like, okay, what am I ready to let go or change? Or yeah, so I think for me, as you mentioned in my bio too, since I moved to Victoria in 2017, I've really tried to like my to-go food and coffee. They're always in reusable. Of course, I started my business in it, but for me, that was kind of my first step commitment because we're so much on the go, right? It's like, okay, grab a coffee, grab food. So I'm really considering like, okay, can I take 15 extra minutes and sit in and eat my lunch here or take my coffee here instead of having to use disposable items. So I've been starting with it. Then I'm a big fan of zero waste groceries. So I use a few stores downtown. I'm in Victoria, so I use many of the stores, bring my own containers, bring my own bags. I go to the local bakery, I bring my bag as well, like just those small steps for me. And I'm trying to create change by I try to educate people, and I'm sure you find that too. It's a bit hard, right? I don't want to be the person that is always challenging others, but I feel that there's like a lot we can do, or I try to do with food waste as well. Like I myself buy all my like I grow my garden, and then I have a veggie box, like a CSA, I think we call it. So I get all my veggies locally during summer, and anytime I have leftover, I will use like a community fridge. I try to really like reduce the waste of food waste as well. I think it's a huge action we can do. Um, and then I'm trying, yeah, to be a little advocate for change. For example, at railroads, right? Talking with the catering company. Okay, can we repurpose the food? Can we give the food back when it's not sold? Can we stop giving water bottles everywhere? Can we stop using disposables? So that's kind of my little area for of fighting. And of course, I would love to see more carpool. I have a lot of colleagues who bike to work. I was a biker before. I've changed my habit, but I need to get back at it. But I think like the lovely campus we're on, right? It's like it would be so lovely to see more community engagement or community, yeah, building of like people carpooling and busing together and walking together. So that's on my list, if I can say. That's kind of my next step I would like to do. I have an electric vehicle, but I know it's not perfect. Um, I've listened to David Suzuki the other day at Earth Day. I think he was speaking here in Victoria, and he said it just doesn't make sense to have a car per person. And then it got me thinking, oh, even if I have an EV, it's not perfect. I should still bring people with me, or bike or bus to work. So small steps.
As I can see, it is a kind of making a lifestyle, right? Those habits, making those part of your life.
That's
Now,
correct. And I very
mhm,
appreciate that some people are like doing policy work too. I think it's so important. And for me, another step I do is I joined maybe 6 months ago. I'm part of a group called Regenerate BC. So we are a nonprofit, just volunteer based, and we go and do workshop with people to educate on climate action, and we talk a lot about hope. So that's another way I'm trying to, yeah, kind of make changes, right? Like I'm not the kind of person I feel like going to the government, the city hall or stuff like that and going up the level. Something I do though is every time the government is putting, like the federal or provincial government, every time they put a ask out, right, a survey or what can we do better, I'll always do that. I think I'm a good citizen for that. I'll give them tons of ideas and solution to do better.
so it's like a big part of being part of the
Yeah,
solution, right?
yeah.
Now, in your opinion, Nancy, what are the biggest sustainability challenges or obstacles faced by individuals or organizations today to integrate these sustainability actions into their daily practice?
Yeah, very good question. I often reflect on that because sometimes we get mad, right? When we're in that world, we're like, "Oh, why are people not doing better?" But I think it's just one of the biggest, sorry, challenge or obstacle. I think is that, yeah, people are running always after time. Like, I don't know if it's an English expression, but I feel that we're always so busy, right? People are like, oh, I have no time to bust because I have 10,000 things on my list today and stuff. So I feel that, like, if we learn to slow down, and I'm saying it out loud because I need to do it as well, it's like by slowing down, then I can have, yeah, I can have more time for to think about my action, like to think before grabbing that coffee to go, or like I recall having conversation with colleagues who say, "Oh, we're so busy at work and not present at home that we go to the store to buy stuff all the time for the kids because we want them to feel love and stuff." And I'm like, "Wow, okay, that's very interesting because if we buy stuff to cover because we're so busy, and I'm part of it, I'm not judging. It's like, wow, this is the maybe a little, not a little, that's the disconnection I feel of our time. And sometimes people just don't know there's a lot of greenwashing, right? I know at Railroads there's a course on misinformation that I would love to take because it's all, I feel that people really look at social media and think they do the good thing, but then they realize, oh no, I haven't. Like recycling, I think in Canada we're at 9% of the stuff was actually recycled, right? So those data, they're not out there. Even for myself, like I talk to so many restaurants and coffee shop, and people still think that compostable items are the way to go, but they're actually not being composted. So I feel that because of that information everywhere, it's hard for people to make up their mind. Plus, they're busy, so they're kind of giving up a little bit, maybe.
That reminds me that only times that I got coffee in a cup, like in a place that isn't is not like reusable. It's because I'm in a rush and I didn't have time to make coffee, so, and I want coffee. So yeah, I mean, just like you're saying, if you is we slow down a little bit, that might be a solution for this.
And
The-
it's a bit counterproductive,
uh-huh.
right? In the society we live in, people are like, go, 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 do more. But it's like, yeah, I see it almost as an act of resistance now. Like it's, how can I slow down? Or yeah, or make coffee in the office so my colleagues can enjoy it. If yeah, I just see that maybe that's that community building again, a little bit of like having stuff that we can share with each other instead of always buying.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Having a coffee maker actually in your workplace, and also it's an excuse to gather with others and to,
Yeah,
like improve the workplace even. I mean, so we're finding more solution with that will impact other areas, right? In a
that is
certain way.
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It comes to your mind another suggestion to overcome these challenges to keep motivating people to be more sustainable?
I know that like I'm part of many environmental group and stuff, and we often talk about, of course, like the pricing of living in Victoria on Vancouver Island, right? There's a high cost in like accommodation and stuff. So that will be lovely, of course, to get more incentive for people to shop zero waste. Um, because it's a bit more pricey, right? As I said, like I do the veggie box, but maybe it's not an option that is affordable or available for everyone. Um, but yeah, I would say so on that end, I think we need like this municipalities and different levels of government to get on board. So people can have access to fresh food. And what I like about going to the market, for example, is that not everything is wrapped in plastic. So that's another easy way to reduce all the plastic we see at the grocery store, for example. Um, but yeah, other barriers than that? Yeah, education, time, money. Yeah, those are the big ones, I guess. And sometimes I feel that people maybe don't realize we're in a climate emergency that much. Like I know for me, I knew about it, and then I did my master at Railroad in climate action, and I was like, wow, my climate science 10-week course was just phew, scary. And then we had the heat dome at the same time here in 2021, and more than 600 people die in BC. And I'm like, wow, okay, that thing is real and it's happening, and everybody's affected. And I think this is often we don't make that connection, right, with our daily activities or action, plus all the impact we have on the planet, and that the planet is getting tired.
Yeah, that's something to take in consideration. And now that you're mentioning that, one thing that we can do, for example, is to promote most environmental friendly like habits in our surroundings. How do you recommend engaging other members in your team or is stakeholders or I mean other people to promote the implementation of these practices?
If you ever share resources with your listeners, I think Catherine Hayhoe, she's a Canadian climate scientist. She's so lovely and she has so many good tips on how to engage in conversation at work, at church, at many different places you wouldn't think of. And she often say, just find common ground. So that's what I've been applying. For me, I really like to lead by example. So instead of telling people what to do, I show up with my reusable water bottle, my reusable coffee cup. People see that I sit down at the cafeteria, for example, instead of taking my lunch to my office. Like maybe if we show and lead by example, people can learn. And often, yeah, I'll try to just find something we have in common, like activities outdoor. Oh, you care, you go hiking every weekend, so you care for the environment. What other action can you do? Like getting people thinking. I've been guilty like everyone, I guess. When I started doing that work, I was like mad all the time because I thought people didn't understand quickly enough. So now I'm really trying to use another approach of like, instead of, yeah, we don't need more guilt and shame in this world. I don't need to say that to people what they do incorrectly. So it's almost like, what do you do well? And I think for me, like a small one, you make me think of it. It's like, if I go to a coffee shop and I see people bringing their cups, I'll say, hey, good job. And people will be like, oh, thank you. Like we love to being told, right, what we do well. So I think maybe by using that instead of saying like, "Oh no, you're doing a disposable, you're a bad person," it might create a little bit more of like positive action.
And also to understand about your own actions, how do you keep this motivation? Because it's hard. Sometimes it's hard, it's frustrating, but how do you keep this motivation?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'm sure I can't wait to listen to other participants what they say because I recall when I did my research in my program too, it was many people were saying, oh, the climate action movement or work is pretty lonely. Like people were like, oh, I feel a little bit, yeah, alone fighting. So I think for me, I keep hope thanks to that group I joined, Regenerate BC. I feel that like it's good to be with volunteers from across BC, being like, okay, it's a small step, a small part, but we educate people, we do online and in-person workshops. And then I feel that yeah, if I sit like if I facilitate one workshop and maybe out of 20 people, there's only one or two that came at the end and say, hey, you really kind of changed my life. You really make me thinking of what I can do, then it's already a win. So I'm trying to kind of keep those gratitude moments somewhere so I can refer to them when I'm feeling sad or disconnected a little bit about the work. So I think, yeah, I would say like really surrounding us. It can be online as well, like a LinkedIn group or Facebook group, um, to build the community and find the people who are inspiring. And something I learned too is that when we need to step down, other people will step up. And this is very like, I feel that if we're on the edge in this work, or maybe any work, but in the environmental world, I feel that if we're on the edge of like, it's too much, then it's like, okay, I take a step back and then someone else will come in and play a role and then I can come back. So it's like almost like not pushing through because it can be very I know so many people who just burnt out that I'm really trying to be careful of like, okay, I'll do the best I can. And it's not perfect. And we need like 7 or 8 billion people to do the same now. But yeah, I think focusing on small action or what goes well and maybe not reading, I don't really read the news. That might be another advice, right? It's like I'll read the stuff, but like especially for climate, it's just so sad all the time. I'll look what the UN is saying and I'll be like, yeah, I like that. Continue that way. And I'll stay focused on that. Yeah.
And if I may, keep those and treasure those successes to revisit hard time comes, right? And
That's a
also
good
like a
point.
reminder is okay, I have got success before and I can do it again. This is just a hard time and I can keep trying, right? Keep trying.
Yeah, totally. And like this is why I guess we study and like just having you like doing that type of research. Like I'm so inspired all the time with what people do on campus in Victoria everywhere. So yeah, I'm trying to maybe surround myself with the positive ones and I keep looking at what they do. And then of course we'll have up and down in our days and weeks, but it's almost like we have no choice, right? We really need to keep going. Like I don't have children, but I see my niece, she's 14, and I'm like, I really want her to be able to swim in the ocean like I do. Like I just want her to have the same future and opportunities that I have and had. And it's like, okay, so I need to protect the planet to for her to be able to do that.
Yeah, yeah. Now we're almost done with the interview, but before I want to ask, can you share, Nancy, your hopes and aspirations for integrating these sustainability practices into daily living? And based on your hopes and aspirations, how do you believe these practices can impact our personal
Mm,
lives and community?
I see, yeah. Hope and aspiration for sure. It's like that people like you, like so many people do. Yeah, using different media as you do, right? Podcasts, articles, social media posts. Like I feel that if we share a positive message everywhere on different platforms, we have more chances to be successful. So I appreciate that. I appreciate like now that the pandemic seemed to be a bit behind us, I see like more and more in-person little gatherings everywhere. And I feel that those ones bring me hope a lot. So I'm trying to create space in my own schedule to meet up with people and like people at different level, right? Students or people who have been working in the environmental and sustainability field for 30 years. It's really almost like joining those little communities of practice and staying connected. So I'm really open to how can I say? I really want to stay teachable. So it's really about like, okay, I want to continue surrounding myself with people who do their part and then I learn and then I can change and pivot if I need to. So that would be my hope and aspiration is that people, everyone continue to do their part so I can continue learning with everyone. And then, yeah, to include those practices, it's like I like what my I started the business with my cousin, Carol, and Carol will always say start small. Like start by one thing you want to change, right? Maybe and even like look at your recycling bin maybe and just look, okay, what is there? Like is it those plastic clam from strawberries that you buy? Okay, can you switch that? Like take like or is it all the yogurt containers that you have? Can you switch to bigger containers or do a refill? Like I just feel it's like picking maybe one or two action. And at this time too, it's the plastic free July. It's all year long, but I know they do a challenge in July and every day they post a small action. So maybe that's it, right? It's like you start with one action a day or a week or a month but you keep going and you add to it because of course if we try to go zero waste overnight I don't think it's successful because we get frustrated so it's like changing small habit and yeah and picking your niche almost it's I would recommend if you're passionate about policy writing then maybe you can volunteer with a group an environmental group and put your talent there so there's so much opportunity so it's often there's like a graph in climate action. We say like almost like what's your magic at the middle, right? There's so much we can do, but like finding what brings us joy and the magic and then going from there. Because if I copy my neighbor or I try to do the same as my colleague, it might not work, but it's really finding what yeah, what gives me the courage to take one step at a time.
Yeah, and this is an easy way to be part of the solution because
Mhm.
sometimes it's overwhelming, right? But if
Super
you like
overwhelming. Yeah.
mix, if you split in different parts and you, okay, this month I'm going to do this, and this is my focus this month, and the momentum is going to keep you going, and you're going to say, oh, it's not that difficult, I can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of, right?
I like
So,
that, and you can bring up your friends and family to do it, right? I know people that are like challenging their kids, and they're like, "Okay, this, yeah, exactly. This month we don't do to go cups." So then,
uh-huh.
like the kids will be, "Oh, mom, no, you can't stop at the coffee shop. You don't have your mug," and people will tease each other. So it's kind of bringing some fun and ease to a challenge too, instead of
Yeah,
beating
I
ourselves
yeah, I
up.
guess that's yeah, that's an important element, like the fun. How can we make it fun? Because it will be
Yeah,
easier to be adapted if it's fun, right?
totally.
Nancy, just finishing, do you have any suggestion and concern about sustainability practices that we may have missed during the interview?
Hmm. No, I'm just looking forward to see the final result. And I think, yeah, for people that are curious, there's so many great groups out there. Like it can be signing up to a few newsletters or just going on LinkedIn or Facebook and just, yeah, find who motivates you and just keep listening to them because there's a lot of resources. I feel that it's like not about creating new groups and new resources almost. It's like about, as you do, right? Bringing the voices of the people who do the work and then you can find your kind of leaders or the people you want to mimic and then you just follow them so I think it's amazing what you're doing and I love the question so thank you for getting me to think about all that.
No, thank you. Thank you for being a change maker and motivated us to be change makers too. So I appreciate your time, your support, and I'm sure all your words will inspire others to be more sustainable. Thank you so much, Nancy.
Thank you, Yosef, that's awesome.